Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in to Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Theodore Henry.
Good day, I'm Lisa Rowe and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, July 22, 2026. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPM, is reporting that over 507 roofs damaged by Hurricane Melissa have been repaired under the Shelter Recovery Program with $200 million of donated funds. This was supported by donated building materials and sundries valued at $400 million. The update was presented by Director General Commander Alvin Gale during a special JIS interview. Commander Gale says another high point for the agency was the coordination of 126 local and international agencies who were on the ground providing initial relief to many Jamaicans.
In this very room, we were running 27-hour operations for well over 2.5 months just to get that coordinating process going, while looking at other matters. And I think it is important that the public understands that as the National Disaster Coordinator for Hurricane Melissa, which was a significantly large event, that the ODPM would have been able to maintain the whole of government coordinating mechanism required to action upon Hurricane Melissa and its initiative for the relief.
Responding to concerns raised in the Auditor General's report, Commander Gale says the agency has welcomed the identified gaps and is working to close them.
We welcome the reports. It does give us some strategic insight into the underbelly of our own operations under strain. So we are able now to, relying on those reports and other things that we have seen for ourselves, build better as we go forward for future operations.
Meanwhile, Commander Gale says ODPM is planning to establish a dedicated 24-hour operations division as part of efforts to strengthen Jamaica's disaster preparedness and emergency response. The unit will enable the agency to monitor and respond to incidents around the clock rather than activating the National Emergency Operations Center, NEOC, only during major events such as hurricanes and earthquakes. Commander Gale says the proposed division will strengthen ODPM's ability to respond to both large-scale disasters and smaller day-to-day emergencies.
One of the things we're looking at is to cause for, in future, a division to be built out around operations. So one will maintain a nucleus that is on the daily basis monitoring all these events which occur across Jamaica, the oil spills on the highways, the flooding in isolated areas, those which might not be significantly impacting national, but we need to be able to monitor on a daily basis and remain operational for all hazards that may affect us.
In addition, Board Chair of ODPM, Trudy Deans, says the agency is reviewing its staffing model to ensure it has the expertise needed to respond to increasingly complex emergencies.
There is a probably higher need for technical staff than administrative. And it's one of the things that we're looking at as a board and the executive management here, to probably get a consultant to come in and to look at the reorganization of the ODPM. So we have to have somebody on board here who knows about these things, who can work with the Jamaica Fire Brigade, the JDF, the police, in terms of managing things like these.
The government is making a targeted push to drive Jamaica's economic growth by integrating micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, into the formal economy. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Sancia Bennett-Templar, says small businesses represent approximately 90% of all local enterprises and serve as the backbone of the economy. She was speaking at the recent National MSME Conference hosted by the Small Business Association of Jamaica.
When MSMEs recover, when MSMEs grow, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is taking an integrated approach to MSME development. In practical terms, this means helping entrepreneurs to access financing, to improve business operations, to use technology, to meet standards, to enter new markets, and to become better prepared for future shocks through resilience.
According to the Permanent Secretary, this push is supported by over 75 business development services that assist MSMEs with transitioning from informal operations to investor-ready compliance.
The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce and its 20 agencies and departments remains committed to walking the journey with you as we foster an environment where MSMEs can start with confidence, grow with purpose, compete with strength. What lies ahead for Jamaica's MSMEs is transformational.
However, Mrs. Bennett-Templer says businesses must formalize and become tax compliant to take advantage of new financing and the government's 20% MSME set-aside procurement program. With the small businesses contributing approximately $1.3 trillion to the local economy annually, she says this will increase significantly with the formalization and MSMEs having access to public sector contracts. The Institute of Sports in Sports Challenge Cup has returned after a 6-year hiatus. The tournament, which was suspended because of the COVID-19 pandemic, resumed last week with 12 ISA football teams and 12 ISA netball teams at the secondary school level competing for top honors. Speaking at the official launch, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange, said the Challenge Cup was about more than winning trophies.
It is about developing character. It is about teaching our young people the value of teamwork. It's about teaching our young people how to be resilient, how to respect your opponents, and the discipline required to perform under pressure. These are life skills that will serve you long after the final whistle.
Minister Grange also announced increased prize money for this year's tournament. Winning teams in both football and netball will receive $400,000 each, while second and third place finishers will earn $250,000 and $150,000 each, respectively. The remaining participating teams will each receive $20,000. Minister Grange said maintaining equal prize money for football and netball reflects the government's commitment to supporting boys and girls sports equally. Principals of schools with top-performing students in this year's Primary Exit Profile PEP examinations have described the assessment as an effective tool for preparing students for secondary education. The views were shared by Principal of Creative Kids Learning Academy in St. Andrew, Heidi K. Holmes, and Principal of Park Mountain Primary School in St. Elizabeth, Carleen Williams-Heath. Both schools had students ranking among the top 10 performers nationally in the 2026 PEP examinations.
I've been in the classroom, so even though I'm the principal, I teach at the grade 6 level. And I've been in the classroom for over 25 years, and the difference that PEP has made is absolutely astonishing. In my opinion, PEP is one of the best tools that have been implemented in the prep and primary schools.
Mrs. Williams-Heath echoed those sentiments, saying the examination challenges students to think at a deeper level.
The exam, really top of the line, and the exam was really something that called on our students to think at a very deep level. I am really a fan of the PEP exam because it called on the teacher, the parents, all stakeholders to just do more.
And finally, Lieutenant Colonel Sheldon Bryan has been appointed as the new Director General of the Island Traffic Authority, ITA. Minister of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, Darrell Vaz, says he will take up the position on September 1. Lieutenant Colonel Bryan has been seconded from the Jamaica Defense Force to head the authority, succeeding Colonel Daniel Price, whose resignation took effect on June 30.
He is going to be tasked as immediately to continue to work on the implementation of the new demerit point system and, of course, modernization of the ITA. And last but not least, to get the Black River examination depot back up and running within the first 30 to 45 days.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thanks for watching.
From sunrise on the beach to sunsets in the hills, Jamaica is more than a place. It's a vibe. It's the rhythm in our music, the flavor in our food, and the pride in our people. It's how we celebrate life. Bold, proud, and full of energy. From yard to abroad, once you feel it, you know Jamaica is a vibe. Let's keep it positive. Let's keep it proud. Let's keep it Jamaican, because Jamaica is a vibe.
When a natural disaster like Hurricane Melissa hits, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPM, is the government agency that takes the lead in responding to and managing the post-disaster response. There have been questions about how ODPM has been operating, especially given a series of reports from the Office of the Auditor General. ODPM's Director General Commander Alvin Gale and the newly appointed Chair, Trudy Deans, joins us now for this special JIS interview. Gentlemen, Ms. Deans, thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with you, Commander Gale. ODPM has had the responsibility of coordinating the recovery process after Hurricane Melissa. Generally speaking, what are 2 or 3 of the agency's most important achievements since then?
Thank you. 2 readily come to mind, and I think it is important that the public understands that as the National Disaster Coordinator for Hurricane Melissa, which was a significantly large event, that the ODPM would have been able to maintain the whole of government coordinating mechanism required to action upon Hurricane Melissa and its initiative for the relief. We were able to bring together multiple ministries, departments, and agencies, a significant amount of our partners, international and local. In the height of the Hurricane Melissa response initiative, well over 126 agencies were on the ground here in Jamaica providing initial relief response to many Jamaicans. That was a significant effort. And I think we should give some thanks to and appreciation for the staff here at the ODPM having been able to coordinate that for well over 2.5 months. In this very room, we were running 27-hour operations for well over 2.5 months just to get that coordinating process going while looking at other matters. At the time material, we still had significant amount of relief inflows into Jamaica on top of sorting out the coordination efforts. I also want to indicate that during the same period, we would have been able to have strategic oversight over the government-directed roof repair program, which is one of the programmatic areas under the shelter recovery program. Thus far, that project is in its closeout phase. Some 507 roofs have been repaired. Just over $200 million would have been spent from donated funds on that program, which was also supported by some $400 million worth of donated building materials and sundries. So those 2 program areas, I believe, have been significant achievements for us, and I want to thank the staff here at ODPM for pulling that together on behalf of the people of Jamaica.
Well, notwithstanding what you've just said, the Auditor General has in fact raised a number of concerns about the way in which ODPM has been operating. Generally speaking, how are you reacting to those concerns?
We welcome the real-time audit into the Hurricane Melissa initiative. For us, we've generally accepted the identified gaps from the Auditor General, and we have been working, as is our job, to close those gaps. So we welcome the reports. It does give us some strategic insight into the underbelly of our own operations under strain. So we are able now to, relying on those reports and other things that we have seen for ourselves, build better as we go forward for future operations.
Yeah, and as I speak about building better, I want to bring you in right here as well, Ms. Deans. Broadly speaking, what's the board's reaction to the various reports by the Auditor General?
Thank you for that, and thanks for having me. As the newly appointed chair, as you mentioned just now, I must acknowledge that there have been long-standing weaknesses in the organization, and the Auditor General's report did, bring out some of those weaknesses. And these are some of the things that we have already started working on. I must also state that the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, he had established a committee just immediately after Beryl to look at how Jamaica responds to disasters. And the ODPM, as a leading organization, was the highlight of that report, because if ODPM doesn't work, then we won't respond as we should. And so some of the things that came out in the Auditor General's report also came out in that review that was done immediately after Beryl. Unfortunately, the report was presented, I think, in June or July, and then a couple months after that, we had Hurricane Melissa. So we acknowledge the weaknesses, we are fixing them, and we have begun investigations in some of the matters that are really serious. And once those investigations are completed, then the necessary actions according to due process will take place. So anybody who is culpable will be held responsible.
Yeah. Could you provide some more details on that in terms of those investigations that you are currently undertaking and potentially persons who may be culpable and actions thereafter? Could you provide some details on that?
You want to take it, or
I could probably help out there, Chair.
Right.
So, for example, there would have been matters concerning gaps in delivery, documentation not being countersigned in an earlier report. Those matters we have to investigate to see where it is that we would have fallen short of due process, and then the necessary implications, if any, would necessarily come from those processes according to the relevant staff orders, depending as well on the gravity of the event. Notwithstanding, we need to bear in mind the necessary situations around the significant operational pressures at the time, and decisions would have had to be made on the ground to cause for the necessary relief items to reach the persons in need.
Okay. And how far are we with that investigation now?
We're about wrapping up the investigation. And as I said, we have already made some internal changes, not casting any blame on anyone, but we see the need to make these changes as it relates to our logistics or inventory. So we have persons from the JDF who are assisting us with that, as well as the WFP recently did a workshop with the team here, and so we are on top of those things.
And by WFP, you mean the
World Food Program. My apologies, right.
Going back to this Auditor General report now, the National Disaster Fund has been set up under the Disaster Risk Management Act. This is to hold donations and grants for disaster management purposes. Now, one concern was a lack of a functioning fund committee. Is that committee now in place?
Yes, it is, but I want to make it clear as well that the ODPM as a body does not emplace personnel of the committees. What I'll indicate is that the very first committee would have expired in September 2023. In January of this year, we would have written to the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service requesting that the necessary steps be taken as per the Act to cause for a new committee to be established through the Cabinet. The Cabinet did approve the establishment of that committee in May of this year, and I believe the committee has already met and has started to engage around matters pertinent to the National Disaster Fund itself. So the committee is indeed in place, and all the necessary matters that require their attention from the ODPM perspective will be forwarded to that committee as per the necessary regulations.
And what about the outstanding statement of accounts and the annual reports?
So directives have been given around these to ensure that the ODPM is up to date with these matters. This is still a significant work in progress for us. The matter of the National Disaster Fund Committee being in place as well will also seek to assist with that as it concerns the auditing of that particular account. So these are matters which, whilst entering, have not been completed, but we are working towards the completion of all these matters.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, another concern was that there was no designated bank account for the fund and that the fund's money was being commingled in another account here at ODPM. Has that issue been resolved?
So we are also making significant headway on that matter. What I want to indicate, just to make it very clear, the investment portion of those funds do have dedicated investments accounts. Where the commingling occurred was that, albeit that the fund had its own account, it was being run out of an operational account here, solely dedicated towards NDF cash. A circumstance occurred at the ODPM in which the extra funds that we found ourselves from another project had no home, and those monies were held in that account. So the funds aren't being commingled necessarily with usual recurrent or capital funds, just one other project account. So as the necessary process informs, we have to have some discussions with the Ministry of Finance and the Accountant General to open such accounts. Those necessary steps have been taken, and we are expecting a resolution very soon.
And for you, Ms. Deans, are you satisfied with the process so far in terms of the work so far on those issues?
I'm sure. In fairness to Commander Gale, he took over at a time when, everything was rushed. And so we just want Jamaicans to understand that there is nothing untoward that's happening here at the ODPM. He has already spoken about the setting up of the National Disaster Fund, the committee. He has written, as he said, to the Minister of Finance on the commingling of accounts. And one of the things he did mention was that, there are a lot of different accounts across government. So that's one of the things that they wanted to do in terms of having too many different accounts. So it's our way now to find, I don't know if they're going to give us an independent account for that, for the donations, but I am satisfied with it. I think that one of the things I mentioned to the board in our first committee, and as well to Commander Gale, is that following the rules doesn't mean that we can't move swiftly. So we can follow the rules at the same time, but act on them swiftly, and I think that's what Jamaicans want to see from the ODPM.
Thank you at home so much for watching, and follow the JIS on all our platforms. On behalf of our production teams, thank you all for watching.
To close out today's magazine, senior presenter Adrian Atkinson reflects on his childhood, sharing what life was like growing up in rural St. James.
Remember the days when people from the east side could go out on the west side and live in peace.
I was born and raised in a little district called Tangle River in St. James. So proud of Tangle River. The beauty about my halcyon days of the 70s is that I was exposed to so many different things that were creative. So we would use certain things that people would normally call trash, and we used that to be creative in such a way that we made gigs, boxes, trucks out of boxes, catapult, hopscotch. We would be creative in using perhaps the rotten banana trunk, and we call them tar. And we used to use the tar to play hopscotch. We used to go to the bush, we go get whist, and we make skipping rope from that, or we use perhaps the elastic band from the inner cork, or the buckle stopper, we used to call them, from the aerated water, we used to call them aerated water, but they were just bottled sodas. At that time, we never had inside kitchen. The outside kitchen that was made out of bamboo, wattle and daub are here. I want to come see all of that. And each kitchen had a dresser. The dresser where we wash, we pudding pan, and we plate, we enamel plate, we knife, we fork, we cups, and we put it on the dresser. And there was a fireside. And so on that fireside is where, the older folk would just put on the pot and you blow the fire. Sometimes smoke on your eyes until you're weak. No wonder I wear glasses in my older years. And then there were times when in that same kitchen, we used to smoke corn, the pig tripe, and put it on the kreng and smoke it. But then we used to, as children, we used to hide and use knife and cut off a piece and eat it. They were beautiful days. By 5 o'clock, you have a beard, and you have to rub Vaseline for your foot. The Vaseline them time, they don't like Vaseline today. You rub it for your foot. They shine like young goody. It was a wonder. You could actually look on your skin and you think it was a looking glass. During the holidays, when you're gonna river, gonna swim, we gonna bush, gonna look guava, saucy apple. Saucy apple is what we call Otahiti apple back in St. James. Well, in my district, saucy apple, we go look mango, we go look banana, you name it, cane. So in the evenings when dinner ready now, and them said dinner ready, your belly full. And when we look into that, it was so many different items that we needed. Perhaps I'm getting a little teary-eyed because those were precious moments, and I value those moments. And I think those were the moments that made me into who I am today. There's one thing that I'd like to see happen in this great nation, or this great enterprise called Jamaica, is where we can come to a place where we are a little bit more loving toward each other. I grew up in a time when community parenting was the order of the day. We shared everything. We respected rules and we respected authority. We had good manners, good morning, excuse me, I'm sorry. Over time, we see that eroding. And I wish that we could come back to that place where we are grateful. We're grateful for the little things in life. We're grateful for the opportunities. We're grateful for even the small things that we have until better comes. I want to see us go back to a place where we can live loving in an environment that is conducive to good morals. I want to see this nation get back to a place where we protect our children, the women of this country, an environment that we can see things from perhaps different perspectives and we still get along, where community parenting will add value to the lives of our nation's children.
We're at the end of today's show, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for another lineup geared towards providing you with information on the government's policies and initiatives for building a better Jamaica. You may visit our website, jis.gov.jm, to rewatch this show or to catch up on the others we have on the site. I'm Theodore Henry telling you thanks for watching from our production team here at the JIS.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.